In this tutorial, we are going to learn about the retouch tools, and we are going to remove the gum from the gum wall. So here we see all sorts of little pieces of gum. In Lightroom, you could use the spot removal tool, but there's so many pieces, the system would get really slow, and it's also really challenging to layer all of those adjustments. So what we're going to do is open this up in Photoshop and do some non-destructive editing. So right-click, edit in Photoshop. It's going to go ahead and launch our picture. And here we have our adjustment panel. We're not going to be using that, but we're going to use our layers panel here. We're going to go ahead and click down at the bottom of our layers panel on a new layer. And I'm going to call this layer retouch. This is going to be all the retouching work. We're doing it on a separate layer so that we can see it before and after. If we ever want to remove it, we can also just delete that layer, and it's called non-destructive editing because we're not altering the actual image, we're putting everything on separate layers. So here we're going to start off with our favorite tool. It's the easiest retouching tool and the most similar to the spot removal tool in Lightroom. It's called the spot healing brush, J on your keyboard. This tool, you can go ahead and just click over an object and remove it. The cool thing about Photoshop too is if you hover over a tool, it's going to give you a preview of what the tool should do. Here you have an option for the brush size and the hardness. The hardness is basically how fuzzy the edge is. I'm going to do like a, I don't know, let's do a 50%, somewhere in the middle. And when you do the size, you can also right click here and do it. You also have a couple other options. I like to often use a bracket tool, so I can just like click up and down to get the right size. And you just want your tool a little bit bigger than the actual thing you're trying to remove. The other way is you hold down Alt and then right click. And when you hold down right click, you can zoom left and right to make your brush smaller or larger, and then up and down to change the hardness, which is how feathered your brush is, and it gives you a preview. So I'm going to make it about here, and you let go, and use my bracket to make it a little smaller. So all you have to do is paint over. You also want to make sure you have content aware selected and sample all layers, because we're on a blank layer, and to sample the layer below to make our retouching, we need to have sample all layers selected. The other thing is, instead of making a copy of the full image, if we make a blank layer, it makes the file work a little bit faster. So here, I'm just going to retouch some of these, and I just paint over them, and Photoshop just gets rid of them. When I'm retouching, I usually zoom in quite a bit so I can see what I'm doing. And then I hold down the space bar to make my mouse into a little hand, and I can pan around. So when my space bar is held down, I get a little pan tool. Here, I just paint over it, and it's removing it. You notice I'm getting like these little halos around them. So what I might do is Control Z a couple times to go back. I might increase the hardness to like 95%, see if that removes it. Yeah, that's blending it in better. Okay. Oh, that one's still doing a little weird. I can make it a little smaller. I'm still getting these halos. So I might try a different tool for that. So then I'm going to go ahead and paint over these the best I can. And your computer's just trying to guess what you want it to look like. I don't like how that one came out. Pretty good. Here we go. The next tool I'm going to show you is the cousin of the healing brush tool. It's kind of a mix of the spot healing brush tool and the clone stamp tool. So the clone stamp, I'll show you that actually first. The clone stamp, you're cloning exactly a bunch of pixels. So for example, if I'm working on the edge here and I want to get rid of this, if I try to use a spot healing brush, that actually worked pretty well, but sometimes you get like weird things that happen in those type of areas, like that. So that doesn't really work. That works almost. Notice that the direction that I am brushing in makes a difference. But here what I'm going to do is try the clone stamp. So I click on that one. I'm going to hold down Alt. My mouse turns into a target. I'm going to click once to copy those pixels. Oop, we also have to make sure we have all layers. Now we're going to get a preview of what those pixels look like, and I'm going to paint over, and you'll notice that it's cloning exactly those pixels. So the problem with that is that you often get like a ghost or duplicate image, duplicate pixels that makes it look really obvious. Control Z. We're going to go to the healing brush tool. Again, we're going to go ahead and Alt click, paint over, and this time it's going to blend it in. It is a little dark. So I might Control Z and try again with pixels from here. So we'll do Alt click, paint over here, and it blends it in a little bit more naturally and a little less obvious that it's cloned. So it's sort of a hybrid of those two tools. I'm going to continue to use this tool. So again, I just Alt click, paint over, and notice how seamlessly that blends. We're not getting that haloing. Alt click, we can blend over. Let's finish this one. So we'll go here, Alt click, and then blend over. So I'm Alt click, I let go of Alt and click, and then I paint over with click, Alt click, paint over, Alt click, Alt click. So now we have a pretty nice big area. I want to fix up that mess. So Alt click, paint over that, Alt click, paint over that. And it's hard to say what tool is best for what scenario. Sometimes certain tools work, just depends on the picture, and you try them out, and Control Z is your friend. So I'm going to keep going over here so I can clear out another stone. So I have some nice retouched stones. And then I'm going to do this edge here. All right. Oh, we got to get those two. Another, oops. Alt click. And Alt click. All right. Let's get rid of that. All right, so we're going to do Control Z, or Control 0, Control 0 to zoom out. So now we have the bottom part cleared up, and then the top part not quite finished. What I'm going to do is now we're going to go ahead and use another tool called Content Aware Fill. So we're going to get the selection tool called Polygonal Lasso, just because it's kind of easy to use. What you're going to do is we're going to start with this brick, and you're going to go ahead and you just click to make points. We're just going to click around the areas that have gum. To close the circle, you can just go ahead and double click and it'll close it. Next, we're going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. And what this does, okay, so number one, we got to do Sample All Layers again, because we want it to select from the actual background. And then what it's going to do is it is going to say, hey, what area do you want me to do a content aware fill from? What's the reference material? Like if you're doing a research paper, where are you getting your material from? So here I want to eliminate anything that has gum marks on it because I don't want it to have gum in it. So I'm going to get rid of that. However, I can, by holding down the Alt key, I can add this information here, which is our brick material. So I'm going to add that brick in there. It has some more information to pull from. I'm gonna let go, and you'll see that the gum here has been replaced. So I'm gonna hit apply, and it's going to render out some material, and I'll hit OK. Now that I can have my selection, I can just click out of there or hit Control D to deselect. So this works sometimes if you're trying to fill in an area. It does look a little funky, but sometimes this tool is really useful. Let's try again on this brick and see if we can do the whole brick at once rather than having to do the entire area. So I'm just going to click around this gum, double click, and then I'll do Edit, Content Aware Fill, again sample all layers, and then I can deselect my gum here, and then I can hold down Alt and add in some of this brick information here and see if it can render up something that looks good. There we go. Just trying to come up with something. I'm going to add a little bit more. The more information you add, the more it'll change. Oops. I'll get rid of that. I hear my computer thinking. And then we hit OK. And it's going to render a new brick. So you may want to go back in with some other tools and maybe clean it up a little bit to make it look more natural. But now I have all of these layers. It's created some brick texture. So I'm going to have you go ahead and finish up your retouching, and then you're going to do a before and after. You can even merge these all together. So to merge your retouch layers, you can select them all. So Control click or click, hold down Shift, click, right click, merge those layers. So now they're all on one layer here. Then when you're done, so I want you to finish retouching all the gum, get rid of all the gum using the retouching tool. So the clone stamp, the patch, the healing brush, and the spot healing brush, as well as the content aware fill. You're going to do File and Save.